Sanje Drober Show. Sanje Judon Zoji Junum Janju Bandon Danen Jabzonje, Daje Janzonje Bezonje, Roma Benche, Sanje Drober Sanje Judon Zoji Junum Janju Bandon Danen Jabzonje, Daje Janzonje Bezonje, Roma Benche, Sanje Drober. Okay, I think we are on divorce number 30th, I think. Is it right? On 30th. Okay. I remember that I have given you a homework. So I hope that you got the time to think about that. Now, here on the verse number 30th and the 31, 32 are the one of the most essential the parts of the chapter 6. Why I'm saying this is because if you recall when His Holiness Dalai Lama talked about the importance of the Shantideva's way of Bodhisattva's life, then he brings out the two main chapters, the 6th one and then the 8th one. So here in the 8th, why it's important that His Holiness said, somehow we have to bring a logic and a reason that there is nothing to be grasping. So now here Shantideva brings all the logic at the time of when we are maybe someone can help me in the Tibetan now. That's just Dengzinti. Ani kalsure ngaranzu chagdamonsum kandeji gebeina Dengzin sawachini geondu ta Dengzin hlöru matangna dadu zebe Dengzin de hlöru matangna ani Dengzin jigri Dengzin gebi shula ani chagdamonsum geberin yeberes. Di Hindu zambe ngazo Dengzin hlöru tangyala ta danda kalsure sebeli ukaduriya ani ngaranzu da sidu zambe ani ngaranzu be rawa ani dagi never chebe never dia rawa ndi ji samatang yundu zambe til heber chela ani junju kembo me gyazu chimbo shiwalagi ani tabi ngaranzu di gyujin shangwanjin la samatang kore sechi dusung gyujin shangwanjin ba samatang tsabe shuudela anta tatiringi de chebar juber rabji sumjuda de zo tone ni dungni deshe di gyungudu wa chazan kejimbo shi chagdo.
So at the root of the three poisons, we can always the three poisons such as attachment and etc. We can find the root of self-grasping, the grasping at the inherent existence of the self, and we have to find a way to release our strong clinging to that. So we have to find, if we don't find a way to release that clinging, that self-grasping, then it will continue. It will continue to be generated, and that will cause, and you can guarantee that following that, the three poisons will follow. So in the sixth chapter, the sixth chapter here in Shantideva's, the great Bodhisattva, Shantideva's chapter on patience, the sixth chapter of the Bodhisattva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, then what he's doing is we're sort of giving us you know, the way that we think about things is that we have like the enemy appears to us to be completely independent, and the harm that they cause to us, we also see that as being completely independent, and we need to find a way to kind of loosen the hold that those thoughts have on us. And so here, what Shantideva is doing is introducing, at this point, is introducing the idea of how things are not independent, but are other-powered, and other-powered by causes and conditions. And then in relation to that, there's a kind of understanding of, there's an implicit understanding of, you know, the empty nature of things. So that this is why this is so important in this chapter.
So, thank you. 다 되네. 뒤인다. 다 제베신 왜신나 제베텔라 지지체 뒤 제바 뒤인시 더블 주어 간시 use. what the digimta. Okay. Verse number 30, please.
Even if when acted upon by other conditions, it remains as before, then what could actions do to it? Thus, if I say that this condition acts upon a permanent self, how could the two ever be causally related?
I think I have to speak that in Tibetan. Dikadu delia Majugi Ani Tenje Nalolia, Tenje Nisumbinan, Ani Junde Tenje se Jidan, Tenetab Tenje si Nisumbinan, Tatan the Judingi Tenje de Ratria, the Kitchen with Shuzin and Gdua. Jazanga Judin Tenje de Rayagos Martuna, and Maranzu Tanda, the Chagiata, Condrigiata, the Zoo take again to stand yon the Vajmado, Maranzu the Anijigi, Jawangama than Javayoji. 싸우는 삼모 코마 되지. 이왕아마 삼모 코 두에도 가고를 돼 있네야. 디 규칙은도 송고래 아세지. 체 디지고를 인데지 용 시그마르스. 니 인데 체메. 제장가 디기 녀를 녀벌도 지금 로고 그랬어. 마라이네 인데지 녀를 로고 요래. 코라이네 인데지 가서 그런 거 내가 깨고야지. 규된 게임만 보지. 녀를 로고 그랬어. 남샤 디 삼모 코나나라 아주 고기요. 남자. 리마코도 zembe ana lamsan chi kan ranzu chi kanyin ju tung be ka mal de ani yong ko ya khasu jes ba ani be de dunje tenje gi namsha de ya wo ji ham mo zan ani ma ju sem na ro da chuma de gi dongyen ji yong ya de da da din sungu do ba je jang ga ta dunje tenje gi namsha de ya wo ha ko wa la ya 딱받습니다. 빈저거든요. 어디신 거래스. 다 딱받은 년 주란 줄긴데.
Yeah. So in terms of you know, and what is of direct relation to these verses here is the understanding of the dependent relation. Dependent relation, and there are different sort of varieties of dependent relation, such as causal, you know, cause and effect dependent relation, and in relation by imputed relation. But and if we don't, so here we're sort of mainly talking about causal relation, the relationship between things, cause and their effect. And if we don't understand what we don't really understand, that if we don't understand how attachment and anger are based in their causes and conditions, then we're going to have we're always going to have it's always going to be complicated for us. We need to understand how things arise in relation to their causes and conditions, and how things are, therefore they're powered by these causes and conditions. And we, very importantly, these causes and conditions, in the presentation of causes and conditions, causes and conditions have to precede. They have to come in advance of the result. So, for instance, of course, it's very difficult to understand past and future lives, but we may often think, when we think about the fact that the causes have to precede the results, it might give us a way. Often we think, well, I didn't do anything to deserve this kind of thing, but the causal presentation allows us to understand that maybe the causes preceded this life, and we have to think about this both in terms of ourselves. So that's the way this is. That's just said it is in relation to ourselves, but also into the others, and particularly those who are causing harm. So that the causes have already preceded the arising, say, of the harm from another, and we will sit there and think, instead of thinking about the fact that the causes have already been set in motion, the causes and conditions have been set in motion, we think, oh, how did this happen to me? Why did they do this to me? And so we have to really sort of contemplate this dependent, this cause and effect presentation of dependent relation, and then this boils down to the key point of understanding clearly impermanence and permanence.
어디지? 다 단다디나로 치료받 뭐서 치료받 가야겠지도 저당 다 시리기 기부디 아니 아직 딱거래 아니 이나야 고견을 두고래세 저바 연구요래데 란조로 다디 캡산 년고에 조 개치슈에 접디 아니 란조 남셔준도 딱거든데 주용거래 딱 등진 텐제치 슈슈지 얘네 란주기 캘린더야 미다와 캘린더기 요래 이나야 제당 망부시부지기 제당 당 삼로당다 망부지기 나로라야 먼저 답어진 등진디 휴지 요래 세워 베세워 요래 이나야 오고 ቄ디에 개천부지기 요래 다 개치슈 가르에서나 란주기 딱버진 등진디 삼로야고 제 당당 심부체 아니 딱버디 견을 뜨기면 봐. 딱버 견을 뜨기면 봐. 단다디 다 조디 줘버들이 와. 딱버 인소나 그 견을 뜨기 그래스. 네버도 미타비 견을 뜨고라마도 딱버 인이 견을 뜨더니 지 싸워니는 거요 말이스. 제상가 단다 디 वर्स नंबर 숨주바 디 가서 그래 30다 아니 숨주소지바 31디 니가로 가르송 것도 제베이나 다 어디 조 30디레샤 제상가 자와델이야 아니 가서 그래 대중 대당 아니 다 진짜지지 니여베 나로네 아니 단다 아니 딱베기 규 딱바 규를 땜바 가서 그래 딱바 이니 깬을 땜바지 충분히나 아니 딘데디타 가서 그래 저와 딱바당 아니 규디당 저분이 버르려야 저와 샤마토야지 저와디야 대중전이 셔도 말이 가전스나 깽기 딱바를 펜토버 셔도 말이스 가전스나 딱바 거라 아니 디레스 가서 그래 란주 견을 떼보면 봐. 다 디게저디 시원도 좀 란주 sem나노라야 네버도 카르코고 도슬라베이나 아니 저희도 딱바좀 등진신이 가르치도. 봐. 당 아주 변하니 빼지 키워나. 미션 받수조 갈래시다 자모고 그봐 미카시 갈래시다 자모고 로정 신로야 미카시 갈래시다 맞잖니 벤조 용디 드조 상로 낑게 내가 지기 선로 지려야 주코랑 자와 코랑이야 아니 계제도 상을 유명 계적해요 디인도서만 알아는 쪽이 세미나로 가르도스나 낑지의 체온도 피기디 끼기도 알이 연구민도 세티 그봐 아주 기겐지기 기루제 로정기 두셰 예디니지나 아주 기겐지기 기루제 코 로정 코 로정 남산 신기도 로정 남산 신기도 가르치는지 랑신기 세미나로야 코 신기도 당아 신기민도 상도 마고 녜 뿌르들이야 마신 마트에디 내가 들리지가 토디요를 얘기 자와 두 아마 들을 때는 충분히 코신에 비교하면 레드리질 때는 충분히 있습니다. 자원이는 아주 삼로 코르토도 봤어. 아니 벤졸 전에 다 알아 봐. 미지기 아니 그 컴퓨터 내가 지금 기라치부 잘 빌게 전도 준비나 코페 지깔레 가서 답이나 유튜브 쇼 차요. 야미 가시 오늘 전에 미지 강보 된다 빌게스는 신깔레 잡지네. 고 유튜브 차마도야. 어디서 상말로 겐지고 계지 마지. 녀랭게 시고지. 녀랭세야디 랑기 랑기 아니 다 오조제제스라 봐. 남규 녀랭세야디라 오야 대응고요 봐. 겨왕가면가 뭔가 대용해야 돼. 오 딜 삼로 코르마토베 라바레스. 다디 뉴즘 도르드니 셰베이나 다 녀랭다 렌지 지진기 남샤데 오 지센토발라 아나 다메다게 남샤도 저야 직sam에 오마코나 아니 다다지 마야지 다디 단다 란조비 랍전네 투베 디다디레도와
Okay, so in in thinking about the causes and condition and the relationship between causes and conditions, and what we have to so in the text here, what is it important for us to take away from this passage of the text? Because we may, as good Buddhists, we may well believe in the fact that condition phenomena are impermanent, but deep inside of us, we actually have a very strong innate grasping. When you go down to the level of the kind of innate grasping, that we very much hold things to be permanent. So there's a contradiction here, and so we have to sort of think about that. But what we don't think about is that what is very important to understand is the way that the central role that conditions play in things. So, for instance, we have to, if we're talking about for these for the outsider schools, the Tirthika, what we call the Tirthika schools, they would sort of talk about a self which is a permanent but kind of knowing and aware permanent self. But this kind of self would then be unrelated. If it's permanent self, then it should be unrelated to causes and conditions. We can't, if something is related to causes and conditions, then it must be impermanent. This is the way that the Buddhists think. And in the two verses here, particularly 30 and 31, but particularly 30, this is what it's trying to convey to us, is that about the fact that if something is permanent, then it can't rely on causes. It can't rely on causes and conditions, because for causes and conditions would have, if something is permanent, then causes and conditions can't influence or have an effect on a permanent phenomena. And so therefore, if something is permanent, then it cannot rely on causes and conditions, for the very fact that those causes and conditions would not be able to influence or affect it in any way. But as said before, that we have perhaps a belief in this, but we have an innate grasping mind as well, which really grips on to at a deep innate level to permanence. Now, if I give you an example of this, then it's very easy to see in the world where you can take two people and maybe they both work very hard. You could take this either in the kind of education field or in the field of kind of business and money. For instance, if you're in relation to let's say two students, they might be students of the same teacher, but one of the students education proceeds extremely well, and the other person's kind of knowledge and education not so well. And if we don't think that we tend to think that these things, we actually tend to think that these things don't really rely. We're looking around for the causes and conditions which would explain this, but we never look to. So what's very important also in this whole presentation is the understanding of the kind of principal cause, the main principal cause, and then other kind of supporting conditions. So we don't, when let's say someone, we have the same teacher, but the other person seems to learn much better than us. We never think, maybe this relates to the reason why this has occurred. Maybe this relates to the person's previous karma, and then in relation to them having previous positive karma to be able to do that, and me having less positive karma to do this. And this also, you can see this in the field of kind of finance and wealth, where you get someone like Bill Gates, where he has becoming incredibly wealthy. But you may also find other people who have worked hard in the same ways as Bill Gates has, but never achieved the same level of success and wealth as he has. So there going to Rinpoche because Nyelin Dang Lenchi Chekin Digi ko Nyelin the Peljo the want to Chepina Nyelin Karishana Nanzu Nyelin
Nyelen se de nga ran su da rangi rigyun ngama rangi rigyun ngama de samoko was.
Yeah. So we also break this in the Buddhist explanation of these things. We break it down into the kind of primary cause, which is the thing which causes the essential, in the next moment, the essential nature, gives rise to the essential nature of a phenomena. And then we have the kind of supporting causes called Henshi Chegin in Tibetan, the sort of supporting conditions. And so we also have to think about it in these terms. But the advice that is coming out from these verses is that it's not possible for things which are, if something is permanent, it's not possible for that permanent phenomena to, we have to understand permanence and impermanence, and it's not possible for permanent phenomena to be influenced by these kind of causes and conditions. So this is the advice which is Shantideva is giving to us here.
The digi chesanga tamida namsha di sebuchi hako wala tanda namjen nanu sungsha jogi ta tanda jejab kabla ya ani jeju nyabala ya chama sumngon do juguri sede ta chama sumgu namsha lawado ani kalsore tabala ani chebai taba yin chebi shugurla cheba yon sigma research. Ota digi gendu tonya ge samro di hako wala ngongi gi namsha to ya bo ma shenba ina. Ani aranjo sem ta chubuti. Di yon sigma se de semba tembu chae jor ba. Di zawani ni yon yame do ba. Di mayon du ani chezanga tanda chirube neshin chirube do zoge unju taba res. Inaya unju kenla duguri se geje di shego sheye de kar to bresna jazanga tabada midabagi nidi ngongge namsha ge ripetzo koranzor meza di sheto yo mare da jazang din nashi jering ge chinribal ya ngongge ge namsha meza 아니 다디 지단에 도 시제 그런주 겨울음 지님도 조린 제도 주기란주 심님 집체비나 대상권으로 참래 배신 룩스타나 디 연구의 선으로 지도돼 이디 용초고 말했으니 선으로 근데 랍디그래 룩스타나 계자딜타나 디 용초고 선으로 지도스 디네 용초고 말해서 컨저 랍그래 다 그런 쪽이 두달 내용 그런 쪽 켈렌의 내용들 디게 저 지유지요 봐 저장가디 아주 옹계기 남샤디야 뭐지 여비나 아니 딱다 디 용시 말했어 대단 디니 배 자원이니 배 개발했어 편준 빵동네 배 옹계레서 삼로드 레오드 당하라 아주 최바질라 인지 문지 디sambo 콜 마투나 저장다 따바됩니다 버니 버루비 아니 산삼로드 딱다지 슈투 말했어
The again, this comes back to a very important distinctions between what is permanent and which phenomena, what does it mean to be impermanent and what does it mean to be impermanent? And the best and clearest presentation of this comes in Dharmakirti's Pramanavartika, the compendium of valid cognition, and particularly in the section which is talking about within the three kinds of modes of a syllogism, the forward pervasion, and there, in order to prove the forward pervasion of the forward pervasive mode of the syllogism, there are three valid cognitions which have to precede that before you can prove the forward pervasion. And those, if we're talking about the syllogism, the sound is impermanent because it's a product, which is the kind of central syllogism there, then what the one of the three valid cognitions which is used to prove the forward pervasion is that the opposite of the predicate, which is permanence, and the sign, which is product, those two, in order to prove the forward pervasion, those two have to be shown to be mutually contradictory, so that if something is permanent, then it necessarily cannot be a product of causes and conditions. So, and if you are not able to clearly present this kind of mutual contradiction between these kind of phenomena, in this case, in that part of the syllogism, we're talking about permanence and being a product. But if you can't show that they're mutually completely contradictory, then there's no way for you to ever really get make a kind of firm decision about the nature of these things. So, for instance, if we take the Tirthikas, the outside, what we'd call the Indian non-Buddhist, what we call outsider schools, for instance, they would they talk about Wanchuk, which is Ishvara, being a kind of cause, a creator of the world, and Ishvara. But Ishvara, is able to create the world. But Ishvara is said in their tenet system to be a permanent phenomenon, and yet it has results. It causes things to happen. We can also, so that would be in Buddhist terms, there's a contradiction between a permanent Ishvara and its impermanent creations. We see this with the scientists also, that they're also not able to clearly delineate this kind of mutually contradictory sense of things being permanent and impermanent, or permanent and products. And actually, with this, as over the years, His Holiness has been in dialogue with many of the scientists, and sometimes you do see that they start to perhaps understand where the Buddhists are coming from, but also if it's a kind of presentation or a new understanding which kind of harms their understanding and thesis, then they're sort of a little bit wary of it. Although you can see that maybe some of them are, starting to feel that, that could make sense. So we have to have this for our Dharma practice. It's absolutely essential that we understand this kind of directly mutual contradiction of things like permanence and impermanence, and that if something is permanent, it's not possible. It's absolutely not possible for it to be impermanent. And this presentation of mutual exclusion, direct mutual exclusion, where, you know, if one thing is there, if one thing is something, it cannot be something else, is very important for us to understand.
Now, verse number 31 딘다. 대דר 탐지 신기 왕, 디 왕기 대왕매, 대דר 신이 주다비 오복을 초민 주스. Okay, 31 please.
Hence, everything is governed by other factors, which in turn are governed by others. And in this way, nothing governs itself. Having understood this, I should not become angry with phenomena which are like apparitions.
다 대דר 탐지 신기 왕, 디 왕기 대왕매 시드. 당 조 간사 신기 소소를 내버 쳐봐. 또 디르바 그런 수보 검사 잘 되니 기고 위도 담배 자기 소소를 내버 쳐봤디. 거기 내버 코랑기 좋은 내버 여지다 내버 제브레 이나야 내버 용당디 아니 코랑베 가수그래 가신 조신원이 베시우지기베 never gender you was on my bar. D never gear D game you mongo jibble toll danger. Never going on a nego soup you mongo game of trouble then talent could never get yon yadi. Or this you do something to get some of you can shan generations around generations. Jazanga dear around Shamang, some of Koya Della. Any good and game of trouble in Kiwo to Zambi, any Danda just Chimbushua like G, and Tabway in Kaya, any Midaba in Batubia, Midaba in Bayin, Yungama, Dendu, Young Koya, do such but Chiruba Kaba, Yamdo, around to be Tons in the land, Yamdo, Ma, Duck, Logic and Batinga, Nyavche. The years of Shugula, Ta Regia was enough. 아니 인제기 수술 달다 수술 녀바친인디 코로나 아니 랭유 심한진기 원경을 녀바제버리 디 삼로 콘도 점베 란신 아니 거 가르쳐버려 미답에 남샤야 보지 하고에 따라와 제가 규定심한진 리샹 다 규定심한진 벌 때니 계속 코카메도 세수 그치 콜라랑 완케도 레더 뉴몽기 상황지. 아데로 콜 원작하게 메두세지. 상황지는. 대시에 딱 가르 잠도 당월서는 아니 땅 아주 디 특정 취지 작비기 디나를 조단이 좀 년 지나디 줄게. 엔데네 마치.
And so for if we take the first two lines of the 31st verse, so hence everything is governed by other factors, which in turn are governed by others. And in this way, nothing governs itself. And so thinking about this in relation to others, you know, bringing harm to us, causing harm to us. And this is, of course, you know, in terms of, this is one of the, this form of an enemy is one of the principal objects of meditation within the practice of the meditative practice of patience, and we, you know, they're not. These people are not, very rarely. Sometimes this does this form of harm, wish to harm, and their anger at us and the wish to harm, their wish to harm us may come from occasionally from attachment, but they never. People aren't setting out very, very deliberately to, you know, very specifically to just get angry. Anger.
Kurang deba yuechi nu jiya tiang. Deba yuechi nu jiya tiang. Kurang yugen shimanje. Kanyan si kiawa ngama ki force tel ten.
Yeah. So also, it may, this wish to harm, doesn't, it also, we have to understand in this whole process that that wish to harm itself, even if there is a form of like real wish to harm and it doesn't sort of more spontaneously arrive, if there is a sense where they're really sort of wishing, deliberately wishing to harm us, even if that does arise, that itself comes from causes and conditions. It comes from karmic imprints and mental afflictions from previous lives, or previous situations. So that itself is also other powered. And so what we see is, so even if it does come from a sense of a real sense of wishing to cause harm, that's still underpinned by causes and conditions of karma and mental afflictions. Even if that doesn't arise, but the wish to harm arises, more spontaneously, it's always built within the structure of causes, an accumulation of various causes and conditions. And so we need to recognize this situation and to understand that the other person is powered or is under the influence of other things. So the other things being these causes and conditions. They're not independent. They're not essentially in control of themselves, and therefore so we have to understand that they're not independent, and they're not independent and self-powered, or not independent or self-powered, or in their own control. They're other powered, dependent, and out essentially kind of under another's control. We're often talking about refuting the because of the early Indian Buddhist Tathika schools, the outsider schools, non-Buddhist schools, but we have to be very careful here. Not just this advice is not just about finding a way to refute the idea, these outsider schools. It's direct advice to us as Buddhist practitioners, and we have to really clearly decide that the other, if someone is causing us harm, they're under the influence of karma and mental afflictions, and that this, once we start to understand that, then we've really understood that if things are, if their wish, their harm it comes from karma and mental afflictions, then we understand that they're other powered, and therefore that brings in the understanding that things are actually impermanent because other causes and conditions are influencing that. And so we can almost think like in Tibetan we say akar. It's like, oh, this person really has no chance. They're driven, they're out of control. They're driven by karma and mental afflictions, and we have to understand that situation in that way. So so that that's it.
디코도 될 텐디스 도와 가서데 테트 디 온기 대화메스 다 규긴 샤마레 라마레 세그 삼로탄도 라마메 세그 삼로텔라 규데겐 중단디 큰 더발 조된 말에 디 콜리아 인플루언스 제니기 규긴 신요레 세그 삼로코단 rāngā samrātāṅ tī tāmbu tīchē. Tā tēne tīwa chīk tī tān tūrīn chūyī tāpa yāgu sōng yō. Rāngā chīk tī samrā kārā kōr sē na, tā gyūdā kēn dū sōpāl tēn dū chīpū kēwa tsamshī rē. Sūsū dēbā wāndō chēne dū rō mā rē sī tū, gyūdā kēn sī tū sōpā dū dī chīpū tēne kāndīs kīgī wē nā sē tōpa dē kī rē sī. gyūdā kēn sōpā tsamrā tēne. 규진 초고 짬을 때니 깨버렸을 때 좀be 또즈 로리아 추마도치 봐 디 제겐기 강사지 모습 된지기 디기 조 말했어 말한주 삼로 나로라 강사기 조 레차벌 단니 기디오선도 삼목하고 여러분 디 말에서 강사기 레디 원기가 좀 중셔줘래 세도 아니 규다 깬 잠시 초벌 때도 중벌에 시지 규진 두벌 때는 중마 잠시래 슬라도 잠베 아니 다스 삼로드나 롤이야 아니 규진 초보점로 간디치기리 땅 알아줄 고야 가르고 그러스나 규딜되는 두부 대충벌에 세도 가르스나 말한주 바꿔도 되는데 딜다 니에게 지금 렘베 가르쳐 버스나 아니 저와 역쇼도 가르스나 아주 개왕아마 요래 슬라도점be 삼로나라 남상 고라 아니 개왕아마 슬람나 아니 개왕아마라 토메타 요래 세도 아주 저와들 남상 땅이 주도와 당보 거안에 중을 세 저들이 봐. 뒤다 망치를 용으로 봐. 뒤 용어야 코란기 저디 땅땅 코란디 아니 조 가르스도 아주기 규진 상황징 삼로 뒤에 리그 거려 말해. 라왕징 삼로 직레 온도 잠베 당보디 거안에 요래 세 삼로 들레 온도 잠베 라왕와지 하고니 주요래. 제장한테 라왕와디 딱 이거 말이 디 라왕와디 매비 좀 생각하는 그 유가망아망아망아말 때는 깨고래 시도점데 다 디기 대화디 야부 지셴발라 아니 다 딘중기 남자 동버다 디레 아 된기 규진게 된데다 때는 답에 된데세 되나는 때는 답에 된데기 남샤디 야고지 하고 요래서 다 투진 취지라고도 수도교에서도 송나 제장가 때네 답에 된데 야고 지셴바이나 아니 동바이나양 그봐 동바이나양 동신도 아니 낭시 차와체바 동신 낭외 차와체바지 오 딘데지기다 시험도 잠베 아니 최근 아니 주마다부리 세 삼로도 코론데 신에 아니 아주마소네 딱 콘도 싸와니니 기린 케미도 우선이 셈나로라야 닝 탁관에 아니 콘도 게임에 수액 탑시됐다 디르샤 세치 제대로시네 주의답이 뭐보구나 초민주로 세도 딱 타드니 지도가 딩야랑 아주기 dumzen식도 마도 초미리부 좀 전다 초고 말에 송도 다 될 초민주로 쓴다 대 타지소
and so here we're sorry I'm trying to read my notes. So here what we're directly talking about is, so we're still on verse 31 and talking about the direct causes and conditions and how how they so everything is other powered if they're from if something is influenced from causes and conditions, then there's no way for them to be independent, that they're other powered, and there's and so in Tutan Chögyal Drapa's commentary on Shantideva, there's a very interesting section where he talks about this in a very interesting way in terms of cause and causal effect action. And there's a if we say that things only arise because of the accumulation, just the mere accumulation of causes and conditions, then this is something that doesn't, we tend to think of the, as the person as the main kind of agent in the situation where someone is causing us harm. But we can't, so if we hear the words that it's just the mere accumulation of causes and conditions which causes this to happen, we're too locked onto the sense that it's the person who is the agent. Whereas what we're actually sort of saying is, well, that person's actions, the wish to cause harm, is coming from is born out of their previous karma, and that we sort of start to think, well, how did that? Then you start asking questions like, well, how did that? If that's the case, that things only arise through the mere accumulation of causes and conditions, well, how did that accumulation occur, and what are the causes and conditions for that to occur? And actually, this is this kind of way of thinking. So what we're looking for is this way of thinking. If we start to ask these questions in terms of going back into previous lives, and we start to ask the question, well, how did all of this start? where's the starting point for all of, okay, if you accept that we have previous lives, but then if you go back into that, where's the starting point? When did it start? Then the very fact that you are asking that question about where it started is to reveal that actually you have a kind of grasping at independence or impermanence, because if it's a starting point, then the starting point itself could not have relied on causes and conditions. And so there's a kind of, it's not possible. If there is a start, if you can posit a beginning, then that beginning doesn't have any previous causes and conditions before it. So this kind of reveal, if we think like that, that reveals that we're still trying to cling on to some kind of independent phenomena which is independent. They brought me my dinner. Somebody brought me my dinner.
Oh, go and get it.
Okay, I'll go and get it. I'll just finish this bit. So then this brings in, and what's being brought in here is in the last two verses of verse 31. It says, having understood this, I should not become angry with phenomena which are like apparitions. And what Shantideva is saying to us here is then bringing in the relation of dependent. Dependent.
I mean, you can pause here and go and get that.
Okay.
It's really important. Come on, you will regret it.
Well, I won't eat it till we finish. Yeah.
I think it's very important here to remember this verse and maybe try to memorize it. Because here it is the connection between the impermanence and then impermanence and emptiness, how it makes the connection. So normally we our practice is impermanence. Meditating on impermanence is very important. Meditating on emptiness is important, but we never try to make the link to the impermanence and the emptiness. So here it's the main kind of point that Shantideva is trying to make this link here. So that I think it's very important. Okay, Samin Chiran Tanda Julia Kelhai Vedina.
Yeah, this do.
Okay. Yeah.
So I also so just as Rinpoche said, then dependent origination is dependent origination or dependent relation. Sorry, emphasizes the relation between things, and what Tubin Chugidrapa brings in is also not just the relationship as we've been talking about here between causes and conditions and their results, but also the more sort of fundamental dependent relation, so that we can say that things are, we can say that things are empty. Things are empty, but they, even within the state of being empty, they're able to appear, and in appearing, they're able to perform functions. So there's no contradiction here between things being empty and things performing functions. But then we have this sense, in that case, if things are empty, they still appear and perform functions, therefore they must be like an illusion, and which is what is being stated in these verses here. And she said this, actually in the English it doesn't really capture the feeling, Rinpoche, because in the English is it doesn't, it just says, having understood this, I shall not become angry. But Rinpoche, the way Rinpoche is saying it is just like, I'm really like decisively, this is, I'm not going to feel hurt, I'm not going to get angry. It's really like in the Tibetan, Turmigur is really like a very decisive way of saying, I'm giving up on this anger nonsense. It's a bit like that. It's much stronger in the Tibetan than it actually comes across in the English. Sure.
This one. Okay, Kangi Kanshin Dog Chati, Dogwan Riba Manshana, tell a tenny Dunyanam, Junju Jundu Music, me. 32, please.
If everything is unreal, like an apparition, then who is there to restrain what anger? Surely, in this case, restraint would be inappropriate. It would not be inappropriate because conventionally I must maintain that in dependence upon restraining anger, the stream of suffering is severed.
재상 당부딜이야. 아니 오복건라다. 초이트니 초 규르투고 말에 초 기투고 말에 세기 삼로딜레서베 주고들라 금젠디 가르고 손스나 아니 아주 가서리 규진텐제기 자와디체 규진텐제기 자와디야 자와디 규진 두버섬시리 두버섬실 때는 충분히 세 삼로디 나로려야 아니 인중의 고아 참모디 삼로코토시 인중의 고아 참모디 삼로코바라야다 맞아맞아 더버지 용구를 했다 또 더버디 들어가다 또 더버디 도 아주 단다 순주소니 베나라 강기 강신 도자데 도바야르와 민제나 세티 다 디기 가르송고도스나 따디마지 로샤고 봐 디기니디 로야디 계절을 치고들이 랑신지 주버 뒤점이면은 예보 강기 방자 강신 도바 제디 메테본 도바르고 민제나 세티 다 랑신지 주버지 메나 랑코 뭐냐 추도버지 매베이나 콜 빵야 케민도와 세 삼로들레고 고리 세다 따지 도바 참으로 봐 어디래 따지 도바 등한들 끼 고고요 빼자지 뭐래 등한주 다 도바도 마제네 단도 동일에 이지 유에서야다 아니 또 동일 대바요세 대표신 비전 먼저 따지고 들이 랜드 제대로서 그렇지 미지기 대바요스라도 아예 대바요스라도 브로데서 그렇지 내가 수순 내가 좀전도 제가 마도 지기 금전 가서 금전 양다가就是프로마 멤버스 그래도가 지난 가르치는서나 이 단단한 계속 좀 쉬어라기 간접 순고도 시작이나 다 도와 가르치기 슬라도 스tambe 다 도와 가르치는 관계 관심 넣어차대 간제스 빵토를 가전선 빵외 년부 빵배 빵자 고랑야 아니 다도연제는 이거 말했어요. 고랑 메두스는 기랑을 하고도 슬라베 대트워디 고소 렌셔나 어디를 랜디고 디고디 중으로 봐 어디냐 중는 게
here we're so here we're talking about the sort of the relationship between causes and causes and effects, but then also we're we for what for if we think about what's the reason why things we think about how things can arise merely out of arisal of the accumulation of causes and conditions and how things form out of that, this is in relation to verse number when we talk about the very reason why in the last line of 31 where we say I'm really not going to get angry at anything at all, and we think about the reason for that. We talk about accumulation of causes and conditions, but that's at a certain level of understanding of dependent origination. Sorry, I couldn't read my notes. And then, but there's a subtler, when we talk about dependent related, not dependently related on causes in conditions, but imputed relationship, then that's a subtler level of dependent relation. And then this is sort of being brought out in verse 32. The first line of it says, if everything is unreal, like an apparition, then who is there to restrain what anger? Surely in this case, restraint would be inappropriate. But also in Gyaltsab Je's commentary to this verse, it says, if there's not even a single atom of kind of natural existence or inherent existence, then how do the antidotes how is it possible for the antidotes to abandon or overcome the things which are to be abandoned? Because nothing, and therefore a kind of functionality would become untenable, philosophically untenable. And he's sort of raising this doubt as to how, well, if the very things, the antidotes themselves and the very antidotes to the things, the abandonments, the things that we have to abandon on the path, are themselves lacking in any kind of inherent nature, then he's kind of raising the doubt about how do we get rid of them. And this is a very important doubt, because this is a very important doubt for us to have, because we've all sort of, if anyone asks us, we say, yeah, I have sort of quite great faith in the presentation of emptiness. But I think that this way in which we say that is just something that we acquired from, or following along with others, or we just kind of acquired without really backing that up with valid logic and valid logical underpinning. And so so then Gyaltsen is asking this question: if things literally don't have an atom of inherent existence, how do antidotes cause the things to be abandoned, to be destroyed and removed? So that's the first two lines of verse 32.
저승가 다 디레 제절 붙이기 저승가 이제 로도 되민라 아니 디니 개월 좀 로도 세트 중도가 대번이 개월 좀 로도 디니 개월 좀 로도디 도고레스 다 개원이 디니 개월 좀 로도디 도발라 아니 띵중 규텐세부 하고 발라 년을 동바 년을 라트 동바 년을 라트 동바 라트 체비 슈라 아니 야나 나르기 파자고 원 수수 깨워면 파자고 원기 동바레 실업도 잠비 띵중으로랑 신기페 녀번이요지 나르기 파자고 원게 오케이 다 디 멤버이나 ngamra che ge zamra de won du chambe ta nyebar do di kan la nebe khare ja go resna ani tinjung lo manebe thone tinjung gi namsha la manebe thone ani tongbe khowa de kan du sto go ye ma do shen ran zu chedal hong yin ga chimbu shi cha ru de jazanga tongba den lo phabe pheb ka ya ani tinjung gi khowa la manebe thone du si ji ya do go ye chi din du chambe 아 대번이 개월 마통해야지 탑시 쳐버렸어 디니 개월 좀 별로도 빵에 랑신 유튜브 동바티 미리고 매아다 빵에 랑신 유튜브 동바도가 될라 때네 사와 토알로서 변용어 같은지 세버줄라시도 거기 짐바 아테리 두송가로 짐바 아테지 차드요래 짐바 아테기 짐바디 아니 맞아 맞소네 바 제원도 아니 다도마 제원도 전배 아니 그런 시 적섬해 봐지 때는 파원도 전배 동바 돌아스 텔라 때에 초와서 너무 탐지 아니 파세도지 용구레스 병연남 균체 버리 가전서나 다 동바디가로 고면도 전배 아니 정신기 아니 거기 가서 그래 뇽아지 게임으로 봐. 동바 통하는데. 다디선이 뭐시 지난주 떨이 게리에 겨울음치기 더굴 아명문진 송주는 거 봐. 어다디 지난주 야고 지지 셈바이나 드링기디 계절음치기 디니 덤바니 겨울 준비기 로도 세야기 다단다 배전하는 유나면은 찍디 공단 때문에 좀이기 더굴 아명문진 차도요. 아마 문진 시도 아마 세디 아주 등진의 코야. 그러와 등진의 코도 아마 쓰고 아주 아마 깨지티가 두고요 말에 아마 세디 등진이 파라트지. 따디도 좀 따고 아명문진 아망문진 세디 두 차로 봐. 대신 좀 선이 겨울 무치기 딸이 예로 송주디 드린 딸이 가져로.
시
숨으로도 와. 다 딸이 예님한테 전환줘. 따디 드린 삼로야 와가지고 땅 토비이다. 캡상 가두라 그래서나 선이들이 게임인데 겨울은 미치기 딜이야 걸럽지 남비가 디키란 줄 따가 지금 잡았어 도지 연구를 튕겨도 저장 저런 줄 디콤포시 제와 다 텐데견을 주도시 어디말에 들어와 가자 텔라 때는 동년은 균치 균도 미리네 생각다 되니 공개도 좀 별로도 세부 지지 파가토비나 아니 동바 인장 띵중 인고래 띵중 인장 아니 규텔라 때네 규가르제 다음에 또 셔럽 텔라 때네 아니 가리 우주부 가리 무슨 고된 토비래 세티 다 어디 딱 어두시지 손 조르셔게
And so here in this 32nd verse, where we're talking, here there's a very so the Gyaltsab asked that question about how if everything is empty, and so what he does is describe this as in his text, which is there. We have it in the English if people want to read it. This translation of Gyaltsab, I'm going to translate it. So things which are empty of inherent existence. This kind of question comes from people who have the misapprehension or the wrong mind, which sees that sees the two truths as being contradictory. So the truth, the conventional truth, and the ultimate truth as being contradictory. And which means that you're not able to posit the emptiness of phenomena, and also their ability to perform functionality. And so he's sort of saying that the main this comes down to a sort of grasping at seeing the two truths as contradictory. Now, in this understanding, what we have to do is we have to understand that we have to get an understanding of emptiness. So if things are empty, it doesn't mean that what we tend to do is very easily fall into an extreme of nihilism, because we feel that if things are empty, then it's very difficult to posit things as performing, as still being able to perform functions. And so we have to get an understanding of dependent origination, which doesn't cause harm to the kind of conventional world of functionality. And therefore, and in doing this, what we do is we understand the two truths to be non-contradictory, that things can be empty and yet still they can be ultimately empty and still conventionally perform function. And so when things are but the trouble is that when searching, when we're engaged in the sort of ultimate analysis, and we're searching for the object and we don't find it, then it's very easy to come away from that feeling that that things don't have any, you would have fallen into the extreme of nihilism. So what we need to do is have a sort of understanding of emptiness which supports the understanding of conventional reality. And so this particular topic, on the 8th of February, His Holiness will recognizing the text which is called Recognizing the Mother, which His Holiness is going to teach on. And in that text, this very important subject of the two truths being non-contradictory with each other will be brought up. And in the 32nd verse here, so then when he's talking about recognizing, we need to listen very carefully to His Holiness's advice, because that advice will speak very directly to this topic that we're talking here today. When Kundam Deme Drumi talks about recognizing the mother is in that context is the self-grasping. That's what he's referring. He's not referring to recognizing our regular mother. And then the last two lines of 32, it would be not be inappropriate because conventionally I must maintain that independence on restraining anger, the stream of suffering is severed. So we, first of all, in relation to that, we understand emptiness, and then through emptiness we start understand dependent origination, and then we also understand the causal link between the wisdom which understands the ultimate nature, the wisdom meditating on emptiness that understands the ultimate nature, and then that as a cause, and then the result of that, which is the truth of cessation. So the meditation on emptiness, you understand emptiness, then you understand dependent origination, then you understand that the correct meditation on that emptiness then leads to the truth of cessation. So there's a kind of sequence that we need to follow there.
No, did you? Dinano, that turned over said in but some just so somebody 33 Tewe Dam Zion room, and Miri Chaba Tongjona, Dindi Jenny, Judoshi, Tedar some de Devar no 33, please.
So when one sees an enemy or even a friend committing an improper action, by thinking that such things arise from conditions, I shall remain in a happy frame of mind.
Chiji Dinalo Tewe said it way. For that reason, said.
Yeah, it's for that reason, yeah.
For that reason, said.
No, it doesn't say, it just says so.
So severe. So the Jiba Tarba.
Therefore
said. So the Jiba.
It's not as strong.
It's not strong, but this the words should be more stronger.
Yeah, so it has. So in Tibetan, it says "Dewe dam sayan rungs," and in the English it just says "so" when one sees an enemy. But there's more of a sort of very strong link in the Tibetan. Dewe means very much for that very specific reason that we've just mentioned. Then the next bit comes. So it's making much more of a stronger link.
Keep this in your mind, and then here bring the above all the reasons that you Gujin Quran Rawanjema Yimba Quran Manzor never did and Gujin Shawanji Yimbati Gujin Shawanji Yimbi Jumzen somewhere watch one do Gujin Shawanjin di understand somebody said Maribe on the Chumbay search Pandratuna Maribe on the Chumba Yinza Mariba Korama Gamatuna Amaranzugi Shengi Mariba de Gala Gizit Shig Yomare Rangi Mariba de Pakashabina Kondukia Koran the Drum Shabin New Kenya that got to Yomaris that this somebody Yavadua New Kenya got to Yomaris 다 인도점에 까투나 가르까워서 콘도지에 거라면 소소 콘도지에 그 자와디 가르를 때는 중벌했으나 딱 머리비 원을 때는 중고도 머리바디 파에 가서나 콘도 자와니는 때는 게임에 같이 때는 수투를 세드다 디삼로야 커버 때는서다 대회에서 아니 다기 뇌제에 있네래 자스도 조고 소소니니도 저기 뇌제에 있네래 아니 미릭체바 통조나 미릭스도 잠에 콘조 알 뇌게나요. 나 콘도 사고 믿었어. 단단 아주 김생 가르쳐나 콘조 뇌게장아 콘도 사고 있어야지. 다 단단 가르 요어 테블스다 두셈. 콘조 뇌게나요. 아 콘도 사고 김생도. 매 도난이 콘조기 콘도 깨단다. 아 가르치는 콘도 사고 매 말하는 라와 차상 요디 소리지. 사고에 매도가 살지. 두셈에 나 Dende le judo she sidu jumzenku right dende le judo she tedar some days ani sem de dewal me sidu sempe ta lo motuba ani sem dewa se kasanyama ne ta jigi konro kebeina ani yi dewe kokop 정도래 세디 이 대화 대 따다 대도 시든 데네 못네 다 수수 가서 그래 최지기 내자 아니 신에 다 야월을 치 송근나 신 아니 something concentration 와 안에 something 시네마 로투레스 다티 maybe 자원이네 봐 심템부 당분의 maybe 인자 일단 때문에 당에 자원이네 요 말이스 자상가 다 대다로 쏨데 대화네 시디다 오늘 전에 제비나 디네마 something 리부터 따가 디강 동규스는 또
connection with it. Yeah. And so in the 33rd verse here, so it's very important when we in the Tibetan where it says deways and making that for what reason, and the reason is that things being this understanding of how or the lack of understanding that things are other powered and the way, as we've talked, the way that they arise, and the ignorance we don't see. We need to understand that the relationship between it's the ignorance which underpins the anger, and we don't, and it's not that's the thing that we have to cause to cease. It's not we can't. There's no way for us to stop all of the other people from harming us, or to stop others. Stop others in their tracks. It's not possible. What we have to do, and we can't stop the anger in the minds of others. We have to stop any sense of anger or retaliation in our own minds, and the cause of that is ignorance in our own mind, and so at that level we cause the that's how we would cause the anger to cease and to prevent it from arising. And for that reason, for the reasons given above, then it says, so when one sees an enemy or a friend, so whether it's even those who are very close to us, committing an improper action, and so we're not usually we kind of justify anger. We say, oh, it's it's not. We actually turn it around and say it's not suitable for them. It's actually suitable to get angry because they're causing me harm. They're getting angry with me, so I can get angry because they're causing me harm. But actually, we have to understand that that's it doesn't matter. Even if they're committing improper actions, it is not a reason to justify us getting angry. Then in verses 33 C and D, so then how to see that it's improper to get to respond in that way, then we think that things arise from causes and conditions. This is verse 33, third line. I shall remain in a happy frame of mind. And so this is so that they've come from these causes and conditions, and when this is very much this is very much in relation to the 8th chapter, the chapter on concentration, where we have a kind of stable, firm, kind of concentrated mind. So we remain. Here it says, I shall remain in a happy frame of mind, and so this this kind of it helps us to turn our mind towards the Dharma, and to, whatever we're doing in our practices of the Dharma, we need a stable, kind of firm, concentrated mind. And so, because without thinking that things arise from these conditions, we shall remain in that firm and stable, happy mind. So His Holiness often talks about this in the terms of the concentration chapter, and so this firm and stable mind is very related to that.
This one. Okay. So now today we stop here.
Rinpoche di konsu di doppelangedua. Ama nusin lapide chanti di somore da ama nusin se di ama di dozen somore ya dozen. Dozen. The kashi de doppelangedua the dozen tangedu.
Okay. I'm ready. Okay. Give me the okay.
Konsu ama 아마노신기 갑수디기 송배 아마데 다세 마레스 코 그래 did call Tombani peche. Denver maybe
동반이
Tombani.
셔비니스. 오케이.
Ashida lagidwa.
비기나로리아 책 딘데주요래. 아마 gem본데랑 소르샤네 에세죠래.
Ama game.
책 딘데주요. 아마 gem본데랑 소르샤네. 추규 거사 등이 직처단 tema 고 그런 쪽이 따든 집에 로지요 봐. 따든 집에 로디기 아니 그런 쪽이 힘매 세티. 시코라 매버디 녜로 문진체 도그레스. 시 여버디 아니 집어지도 샤샤베이나 아니 단도 동반이 모두 제베이나 아니 아마 gemodi 델샤니 아니 수주 샴바지 쳐디요 레스라 따디 인도 잠베 디컵소리야 가자 걸 숨고요 봐 가자기 나 자장가 가자 걸 쇼인도 잠베 가란주 팔 삼당의 디그리 배낭 땡제 양나 중립이 나로네 아니 이게 머리바디 빼라마시 티고도 잠베 아마 gen고 커주 체진이 티고래 이게
맞아요.
그런저 통하요나 디 아마 게모치 티고래 아마 게모데라서 샤네스 자장가다 머리바디
랑소 샤네 세인데.
랑소르 샤네스 랑소르 샤네스 디고 콜레야 구조 게마테니 샤베이나스월 아마 게모데라서 샤네 은 수주 샴바지 쳐대베이나 아주 냠년다다 디고 말해서야죠. 제가 딘디기 삼부탄에 니 아마 게모스야디 아마 님보데 당진이 샤고면 로스거. 나 이나야 고란조야 아마디 동반이를 샤제 양데 쳐베이나 단데디야 아마 운에 전에 끼지 신이 수지요 말 아마 신이디 고 지기 수술이야 단다파도 시부지기 야고 체니디 먼저로 등진기 다음에 또 싫어니 나노네 다당 먼저로 등진기 소디 버봐 먼저
Yeah.
버봐 다음에 또 싫어가 먼저 써요 말에 다음에 또 싫어 소되니디 상제의 전주스 먼저 들어와
Right.
디인도 잠베 답답해 가war을 자고도 따디 계란주 따주리 제자니라고 얘기 좀전디 호타디 간지
Yeah. So I just checked because people had put in the chat about the Rinpoche when he was speaking. Translated the not translated it. It said that the mother in the mother recognizing the mother was self-grasping. So some people in the chat were raising doubts and saying that whether it was self-grasping or whether it was emptiness. And so in the text it uses this words where Amagembo, the old mother, is kind of left just as it is. It just kind of rangso nishane, so just kind of been left there for a long time. Now, if we take so this is a little bit connected with explanations from the different traditions. If you were to say that was their sort of the kind of primordial mother in terms of kind of non-galupa traditions, right? Chugushen is a galupa mind be chugushen, right? Galupa mind be chugus again, but the shavi, you know, it's not this double mebache. Dra.
추주 샴바스나
Galupa mind be. Galupa mind be, then so the ama ran Islam, not this because I double mebache.
말에 아마 게모데 랑소르 샤세 랑소르 샤단데
네.
샤단데 따된제베 로디 아니 어디 코라트에 돈달라 아마 게모세린 가차데 파 아자 샤네 아니 샴바지 제데베니 디그 말레스 두송겐 소로 지어 우르 찍나라
Yeah, so actually there is a sort of differentiation here in terms of the way that the different Tibetan traditions would interpret this, because if you were to say that the mother is the sort of because dacha ama gemba de gachi imba den ze konze disratu gemindua dire ama gemba de
ama
gachi
gemmo
bishabi
the bell tangi bed shabe tende yang la chunye ge ama de chukhyam be.
Yeah. So it's a little bit, because we're talking about in order to this kind of searching mind that's looking into taking a phenomena and looking into it to analyze. Now, if you take that, if you take the old mother, because the words that are used are called the old mother. Now, one of the ways that I'd like to, I sort of bring this sort of explanation is if you think about the 12 links. So the ignorance is if we take it as an example, then it's the ignorance which drives the 12 links. And so I think that the there are lots of explanations about what the old mother is, but if you take it as emptiness, in some ways it doesn't sort of, the example of being emptiness doesn't really fit, because what the old mother is something that's been with us for a long time. So understanding of emptiness hasn't been with us at all. But what has been with us for lifetime after lifetime, and the central cog which drives the 12 links, is self-grasping. So if you use the words old mother, it's something that has been around with us for a long time. So this doesn't, and so the only people that emptiness has been with around for a long time are the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They're the ones who would have an understanding in emptiness, and therefore be close, the mother would be old to them. So so that's why I'm raising the doubt about whether the old mother is actually self-grasping or not. That's yeah, because it doesn't make sense in the example.
Tangi ama gemmo di muzin chegure sege ama gemmo di ajogi ama tegur ama muzin sebe ama dida tongbanyi de shen de gudwa ta chezanga nyegi tangi tanda ama ngun jingure se ama ngun jing kabla ya ama di gaje ama res chije ngos kelabya mare nye kharalabresna di kaptoliya 아니 가장 응외 진단치 송그레스 자 가장 응외 진단치 엔디가라 로도디 단지 로도디 가림바 디니 몽게도 짐베 디니 개월 짐베기 에네 로도디 카톨리아 아니 딱 가자 컨디스 조고 유메시지 다단다 아마 따고 아명 운진세에게 아마 데다 고 갑도기 단다 니에게 라비아디 가자를 잘바이는 잘해도 다단다 공단 때문에 좀에게 아망운진디 아니 바 맵 수셔도 스타베나 야 동반이 그러나 자네 되기도 와.
So I'm just I'm not saying absolutely definitively that that's how it is, but I'm raising I think in Kantan Demidrume's text it identifies it as emptiness, but I'm thinking in terms of joining up what we talked earlier about, which is mentioned in Gesab J's text about the two truths being the wrong view which grasps at the two truths to be contradictory. And so if we think of it in those terms, what that is also comes in relation to is recognizing the object of refutation. And therefore, I think that there's also a case to be made that you could also, when you're talking about recognizing the old mother, you're actually talking about recognizing what is the object of refutation, and therefore the mind which grasps at the inherent existence, and the mind which grasps at the inherent existence. So I think you can make a case both ways, is what I'm saying.
오케이. 또 지난 주에 거에매 차중에 가르치비. 덕임도 더 드린데 샤샤고 봐.
Yeah.
지난주 거기도 왜?
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. in here.
당아주 대샤 디 뭐말람 디직된 거리 전부 준비라. Okay, can you do the prayers in English, please?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Having thoroughly investigated in accord with all that I've heard day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the three times in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Well, thank you. 다자장아 단지 주버도 야고리 아마디 가와리 샤고리스. 그러봐 아마디 동반인의 샤고리 당진의 샤고리스. 다도 단지 저버도 좀 빼야고리. 네. 디 다단다 공 지난주 공단 때문에 좀 송디 지난주 제 아니 예 노래는 예 공다스. 샤바디 노래는 샤바디 공다스. 차브 계자. Okay, thank you very much. Geradi Chutsurda.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you very much for raising these doubts in the debate. It's a very important very important debate. Please, read Kundandami's text and also think about how I've said it. But if I've made a mistake, I apologize to you. If others have made a mistake, then we can all apologize. There's no problem. But the debate itself is very useful. So please think about that.
Also, thank you very much.
Thank you.